off by telling our listeners just a little bit about Box Night as a game. How did this come about, and where did the idea first originate?
I guess it's a pretty long one, but I'll do the short version. It did start as a bit of a joke in the office. Like, it started, we were in post-production on one of our shows, Lucy and Dick, and I remember coming around one of the offices, and we were doing Friday night beers because it was quite a long post process. And one of our artists, I sort of walked past, and he'd fashioned a beer carton into a helmet, and the silhouette looked really interesting. And I just asked Mikey, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm the Box Night." And the silhouette was fantastic, so I kind of ran next door to Jeremy, sort of the co-founder of We Made a Thing, fantastic artist, so all the art and design has come from him, and just said, "Look, I think there's an idea here." And we just started noodling away and started as an animation project, but then got obsessed with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game.
Yep.
And yeah, that was the seed of the idea. That was back in 2019, and we made a little proof of concept, and were fortunate enough to get some seed funding from the South Australian Film Corp to really kick it off in 2020. So that's, where it all started.
So has game production always been something that you've been interested in ever since you were a kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like game, film, anything story from our perspectives. Like, we're obviously avid gamers, but We Made a Thing really did start as a film and TV production company. But we always wanted to get into games. Like, we make the joke where we always wanted to be platform agnostic. And, even early days, we've been working with the Unreal Engine and Unity and trying to find ways to build that into our film pipelines. But Box Night really became the first cab off the rank in terms of game. I think, COVID was an interesting one. A lot of our live productions got postponed. And so we were looking at a 2020 where we had to work remotely, and Box Night was there, so we got to actually sink some serious time into it.
So all the listeners out there are probably wondering right about now, what games got you into gaming when you were younger?
I guess I played, this will probably show my age, like the very first Need for Speed. My dad was a gamer. He always had like a steering wheel, a joystick, and that sort of stuff. So I was exposed to PC gaming pretty early. And like, I remember the original Prince of Persia vividly. But I think it was, as growing up, falling in love with games like Fable, really for me was huge, as it crossed story, it crossed gameplay, it crossed a weird sense of humour that really sort of resonated. So those sorts of games meant quite a lot. And then, lately, to be honest, we fell in love with the roguelike genre. And probably nothing, it is cliche to say, but Hades really knocked us out in such a wonderful way. Has formed a really nice reference and, massive influence on us.
Definitely. Now, bringing it back to Box Night, you mentioned that it started off as a little bit of an office joke, and then it turned into something a little bit more serious with some concepts and everything coming about. What was those discussions like for you guys, sitting around talking about what does the Box Night do? What kind of adventures can we put the Box Night on? What were those discussions like, and how did it develop from there?
I think one thing we love to do with all our projects, we love high concept. We all come from that sort of space, but we love grounding it in reality. And so we kind of had, I guess, South Park, and we talked about South Park, we talked about Lord of the Rings. We wanted to do something weird, but base it, as soon as we based it in a common sort of office, cubicle C sort of thing, we really wanted to kind of make it feel that if you're playing and anyone's done that 9 to 5 sort of job, or really worked in any sort of office space, like they would find some form of, reference or grounding that kind of reminded them of their normal life.
Yep.
Because like a lot of we wanted to go as hard as possible with the creatures, with the fantasy, and to be honest, with the sort of animated gore and humor. That really tickled our fancy, and so we always, like, part of the rule was, like, we wanted to make people laugh when they were playing and laugh when they were watching. So it's quite an out-and-out gory and silly game, but, mixing it with that South Park sort of, I guess, cartoonish aesthetic does kind of soften the blow a little bit and make it funny.
That humour coming into a game, that's something that you don't see very often these days. I think there was probably more of it, like when you and I were younger. Was that a difficult aspect to bring into the game, the humour?
Yes, and it was because, I guess, in the film space, that can be the big focus. You focus on the humour with the dialogue and performance and that sort of stuff, and with a game, we couldn't really use those tricks that we were so comfortable with. I mean, we can get that in a little bit with text and dialogue and that sort of stuff, but most of the time, gameplay is that. It's the gameplay. The user is in control of the character, and it really pushed us to, look at ambient world building and humour and finding ways to, I guess, weave that in so that it didn't feel shoehorned. And I think Jeremy's done a fantastic job with animation and the focus on the characters. All look fantastic, and they're all based on, I guess, real people that you kind of know. Like the drone goblin is that office drone sort of worker that follows the herd, and so every enemy is designed and based around probably a toxic co-worker that you might have come across in your time. And that's where we found a lot of the humour, and we just kind of doubled down on that.
Now, you mentioned that We Made a Thing do a lot of work with film and television. Can we still see Box Night potentially as an animated series or something down the track to go hand in hand with the game?
Oh, I think we've definitely designed it with that in mind. And like we love building worlds for that, I guess, exploration into other platforms. So I would love to see it find another format to live on. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there with that world and the characters that can inhabit it.
Now, of course, you guys are award winners for this year's PAX Australia Indie Showcase. What does that award mean to you guys, being included in the award winners? What does it mean?
I think first and foremost, like it's really exciting because in a way we've been locked in our little dark corner working on this game for around 3 years now, and we have sort of withheld actually going out publicly and going to consumers yet. So I mean, it means so much to PAX was always going to be the plan, but to get the Indie Showcase and get that extra sort of reach and be in front of, I guess, all the people going through that hole is just ridiculously exciting and such an awesome platform for us to kind of kick off our consumer-facing stuff properly.
Now, I've been going to PAX for a long time now, and I love the Indie Showcase because you get to do demos and you get to explore games really, really well. What will you guys have at the Indie Showcase this year for people to take a look at?
Yeah, so we've got a really solid playable at the moment, which was one of the big focuses for us. We were fortunate to just actually have come from Gamescom in Germany, where we got to kind of have a little dry run of what that, I guess, short 10 to 15 minute play experience looks like. Given that it's a roguelike, part of the full game is really starting a run, dying, leveling yourself up and going again. But we've sort of found a little in between where you get to play I think it's about 6 levels, a boss, or 6 varied levels, a boss, and a different mix of enemies in each sort of one. So that's still randomized, so you still get a feel like no play will be the same. But yeah, you'll get a really decent little action-packed play experience.
Awesome. And if anyone's listening at the moment who can't get to PAX, where can they find out more information about the game and also about your production company as well?
Really, the website is probably the best. So playboxnight.com is the Boxnight website, and the Steam wishlist link is there. So our Steam page is attached to that. And our We Made a Thing website is wemadeathingstudios.com, and you can find all our social media attached to that. So we generally try and keep that as up to date as possible. But yeah, it's something we should do more.
Awesome. And Tom, I guess to finish off, what would you like to say to people out there who are thinking about heading along to PAX? Because this is the first PAX in person for a while, so there's probably people out there that have turned the right age to come along to PAX for the first time. What would you like to say to people out there who are thinking about coming along to PAX this year?
Yeah, well, I guess we're sort of PAX newbies as well. Like, we went to PAX in 2019, and we did that on purpose to sort of, just go and see and play and talk as much to the people in the companies in the hall. So if it is your first time, just go and soak it in. Like, it's a big space. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of really cool games. Take your time and work through it is what I'd say.
Awesome. Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. It's been an honor having you on the show. I cannot wait to head along to PAX and check out your store with Boxnight, and we wish you all the best of luck with getting it out there to the public in the future.